of where KIFCure provides value, and then also where a number of our vendors or our partners or customers are providing value. And really hope to provide everyone with a good snapshot of what the industry looks like today with these emerging cannabinoids in the CBD space. And then really just, like I said, touch on some of these different areas in the supply chain, all the way from the genetics to the cultivation, making or processing it into biomass, which is then extracted into crude extracts and finished goods ultimately. And really there are just thousands and thousands of uses for this plant, this hemp plant. And there's a lot of momentum gaining, not just in the CBD side of the industry, but also in the fiber and the cellulose and the herd areas of the hemp industry. That's also emerging. It just so happens right now CBD is the highest dollar, and we're starting to see some of these commodities or some of these other areas of the hemp industry form into commodity markets. And so it's very exciting to that. But today I'm just really going to focus on the CBD aspect of the hemp industry. So it all starts with choosing the right genetics. So really, when looking at what you're going to, what you want to plant for the upcoming season, you could look at really seeds, seedlings, or clones are your three options. There's different advantages, pros and cons for, I would say, all three. Generally, if people are planting a larger area, multi-acres, they would probably not necessarily go the seedling or clone route sometimes, because of the fact that you have to get planters for these things if you're going to do it at large scale. So what we tend to see, and this is not always the rule, but for the larger grows, they generally direct seed into the ground. For, as I mentioned, the seedlings and the clones, those both have their good benefits for planting. So clones, for example, I mean, you're going to get a repeatable plant for your whole crop. So in terms of managing that crop throughout the year, in terms of being very predictable what that specific genetic will do in terms of its CBD and THC contents and terpene contents, you're going to get that repeatable experience throughout your whole crop. Now, with seedlings, a number of farmers are seeing kind of gravitate more towards seedlings because you're able to get that taproot into the ground with the seedling as opposed to the clone. The disadvantage there is just, depending on the genetic, you could have a wide variety of the different phenotype within that specific genetic that you're planting the seedling of. So again, there's different advantages, benefits generally to planting all three types of those. So, and you really want to make sure when you are selecting these, that you have a certificate of analysis that shows what that seed had turned into a plant and what it had tested out at previously. That's very important, obviously, because you want to make sure your CBD levels are where you want them to be. In some cases, where the terpene levels might be where you want them to be at, or obviously the THC levels, because you don't want your plant to go hot or go above that 0.3% in the growing. And really just understanding the compliance of growing the genetics and period. I mean, a number of genetics, we have a genetics order form that we provide that essentially has certain restrictions on what can and cannot be done with those specific genetics that we're selling. So really just understanding the compliance of where those genetics came from, what generation they might be, what other states they've been grown in. Those are all things to kind of consider when choosing genetics. So we're all about the farmer at KIFCure. It's really kind of how we've, as Debbie was alluding to earlier, we've really just kind of taken a liking or a role in this supply chain, is really to help that farmer from the time that they are pulling the plants out of the field, really, coaching them along the way to get it into the right form of biomass, milled or deep, no sticks or stems or anything in it, all the way till then when it gets extracted and put into products. So we really try to help monetize biomass, I guess, at a basic level. And we're starting to see a lot of unique products come about, like especially within the CBG realm and the smokable flower realm. So a lot of exciting things that have been happening here in the hemp industry over the last 6 months or so. In terms of when you're starting to get to go into the field, as I mentioned before, getting a certificate of analysis is important, but also getting a soil sample of your soil that you're putting the seeds in or the seedlings into. And there's some local labs here. If you don't have a sample of your soil from previous years or of this year, it's a good idea to take that just to get an idea of what's in the soil, what some of the different nutrient levels or different levels of minerals and so forth might be in that soil. That way we can match up seeds that might be good for those specific types of soil. Always get so we always want to get feminized seed. We don't offer anything other than feminized seed. Obviously, you want all feminized seed in your crop, and really throughout growing, even though you do buy feminized seed, you want to be in your field knowing your plants throughout the year, because in case you may have some hermaphroditic tendencies within your seed, there could be males that do come out in feminized seed. So one misconception is, oh, I planted the whole field in feminized seed, and I'm fine, so I don't need to check my grow. Well, that's not the case, and we encourage everyone to walk your field and make sure you're not seeing any male tendencies there. Wind and the elements, obviously, that's something always to be considered about. This particular picture is of our field here in the back of our property. We did an R&D plot last year of about a half an acre. You can see we had to put a fence up there. It's up on a hill, lots of wind, lots of, potential intruders, what have you. So what we did is obviously want to protect your crop, protect your field, and ultimately plant in areas where maybe there's not like low levels of water collection or high hills like we have here that might damage the plants with high wind. So now I'm going to shift a little bit over to the extraction side of the business. So now we'll go from the soil to the oil side of the business. And what we do in this realm is really kind of what I mentioned before. Take the biomass and consult with our farmer on what is the goal for that. Like try to see an end game of what that biomass specifically it will turn into. Are we just taking it to crude oil and then essentially having the customer sell that off? Something that we don't advise just due to the prices of crude oil in particular. We suggest taking it at least into a full spectrum, and I'll go through that on a next slide. But basically what we do is we help extract all sorts of cannabinoids, CBD, CBG, CBN, CBD, and others using some advanced techniques throughout our network of processing facilities. So as I mentioned, we will do the handling and storage of biomass from the time, essentially we have our farmers get it into that milled and destemmed bag of super sacks we prefer. Working on some of the formulations with the farmer in particular, when we take in that biomass, as I was mentioning, sitting down, consulting, saying, okay, you have this, this flour, this biomass, we're going to turn it into such and such many liters of full spectrum, and then really developing a game plan from there, whether we want to do isolation to create a CBD or CBG isolate, to remediation where we want to take out the THC or get the THC to below levels of 0.3%, or into nano water soluble form where this is kind of the new trend of where everything is moving into the water soluble realm because of its and tasteless, waterless type of form. We've been really focusing the last year or so on cannabinoid miners, so really not just understanding them from an R&D perspective, but also utilizing them in formulas, providing them to our farmers or our customers or our brands so that they can utilize a CBG maybe in their tincture, or a CBN in a pill, or in a gummy or something along those lines. So really understanding these miners is important as a farmer to understand what is kind of hot and in demand right now, what is and what's not, and then so doing your homework on miners is very important. Other things we've been doing is taking different types of distillates and blending them together to make more of a broad spectrum type of oil that's in high demand right now. Anything, as I mentioned, with cannabinoid miners. So go on this next slide here so I can kind of go through each of the different refinement types. So what I've done here is essentially just kind of drawn out some of the top things we're doing in the refinement space today. Obviously, we talked about taking biomass to crude, and that can be delivered in a full spectrum or a tea-free, where you're remediating that THC out of the crude right after you're extracting it. So that's become more popular because then essentially the distilling labs can just take that and distill it, and they don't have to do anything else and create their tea-free distillate. Crude to distillate, as I was just referencing, full spec, tea-free, and broad spectrum. So the difference between there's been a wide, I guess, in the industry, these terms get kind of thrown around and interchanged sometimes. The way, at least that I see it, and some of my friends see it, is that full spectrum is anything that's extracted directly from crude from a full spectrum crude. So you're going to have a full spectrum of CBD, cannabinoid miners, as well as parts of THC that would be above the 0.3%. So that's a full spectrum distillate oil. When you take it and take out all of the THC, I consider that a THC-free oil. Whether it has miners in it or not, it essentially has no THC present in that oil. And that's done, as I mentioned on a previous slide, through remediation. As many people, like I said, interchange this term, but the way I define broad spectrum would be a oil that would be below 0.3%, so it would have some level of THC in it, but it would also have a cannabinoid profile that would be heavy in miners, so maybe like a 4 to 7% in your cannabinoid miners, meaning CBG, CBN, CBC. Other levels of extraction would be taking distillate oil, so full spectrum or tea-free or broad spectrum, and turning that into some level of an isolate. Without getting too technical on some of the ways that these extraction types are done, essentially you have these CBD, CBN, CBG, CBC, and of course Delta 8, which is all the talk now. If you turn on the news or do any Google searches about hemp, Delta 8's being talked about a lot, and there's a huge demand right now. And I guess I'll talk a little bit about that. I didn't really plan on getting too deep into it because there's a lot of uncertainty there. But yeah, I mean, the Delta 8 right now, because it qualifies as the 2018 Farm Bill, it's technically legal. A lot of the business has shifted away, at least from the consumer side of things, has shifted away from some traditional CBD products. And a lot of the shops now are moving towards that Delta 8 THC to satisfy demand. And again, I think there's some uncertainty in the industry. There's certainly been a lot of discussion between different states and lawmakers and agencies and so forth. But that's something to keep an eye on is Delta 8 THC. The other area I want to talk about is spoke about a little bit earlier would be our nano and water solubles that were being developed. So essentially what this is taking, like I mentioned before, a little bit of any type of oil, a full spectrum, a D8, a tea-free, and then turning it into water soluble powder traditionally, where that specific molecule of whatever we're turning into nano essentially becomes more bioavailability for our bodies to ingest because of its being broken down into nanoparticles. And essentially it's tasteless, it doesn't smell, and you get a better effect as a consumer when you're using some of these products. And you'll start to see a lot more of these products on the shelves of the water solubles in the coming months and years because they work better. Extracting terpenes is a very, very popular thing right now. The industry is shifting away from food grade type of terpenes that were being added, over the years to more natural hemp derived terpenes. And those are becoming much more desirable than some of these food grade terpenes to use into different products, whether they're lotions, whether they're, edibles or what have you. We're going to see a big shift here for companies that are just making terpenes moving forward. So it's good industry to be in. It's, we certainly buy quite a few terpenes from our producers that make those because it's very special. You got to have a very specialized process. And so we'll see more and more hemp derived terpenes enter the market here in 2021. So once we have all that oil, we then essentially take it and turn it into products. This is the second half of our business, really focuses on the branding, the formulating, the marketing and distribution of CBD-based products. On the screen here, you can see I have a few of our brands that we have on the shelves throughout mostly the Midwest here is our distribution at the moment, but we are partnered with some national distribution partners, so hopefully taking some of these brands to other states in the coming months. So yeah, basically what we do is we offer private labeling and white labeling services for our farmers, for our brands, for other folks in the industry that might be looking to do a little something different with their oil. What the difference between white labeling and private labeling. So white labeling is if we take our formulation with our material, meaning our CBD or CBG or what have you, and make that product for a brand. That would be white labeling. Private labeling would be if our farmer is providing us with their material, their distillate or their tea-free or whatever, and then we are taking their material and using our formulas and creating products. Some different pricing there, obviously, and different service level, but at the end of the day, we get really great products in the hands of our customers, and then ultimately into their hands of our customers. So that being said, I wanted to, we have one of our brands with us today, Vive's Leaves. So I have Genevieve Dolan with us. Genevieve and Kip Cure and Genevieve's family have partnered together to create the brand that you see on the screen here today. This is a newly launched brand out of Chicago, so local-based brand. And I'll let Genevieve speak a little bit about the brand itself and how she got into creating brands in the CBD market.
Yeah, so thank you, Jared. Jared and I met about a year ago and we partnered in August. So I'm really excited to be here and tell you a little bit about Vive's Leaves. But a little background, I was in event planning before I got into CBD, and it was just a high stress job. And so I went to my nutritionist and she gave me CBD to help with sleeping and body aches and all sorts of other things. And as I grew to understand CBD and its nature and all its healing powers, I really found a passion in it and decided to switch careers. And I luckily met Jared and KifCure, and my family's investment firm and KifCure decided to create a joint venture. And that's how we came and found Vive's Leaves. So these first two products that we have are a facial serum and a facial moisturizer. They are amazing for all skin types, and they have so many natural and scientifically based ingredients that really help all skin types, especially those who are suffering from dry skin, acne, any type of rosacea. You can do your own research, but there's plenty of medical journals out there that are coming out with studies that are proving that CBD is indeed excellent for skincare and just all those great healing properties. But yeah, if we have a website, so there's tons of more information on this on the website. But just a quick few facts about these products. Have aloe in them and some other natural ingredients that really help restore the skin's surface, and it does sink below the surface. So you're really going to get that collagen build with this. And the anti-aging, antioxidant, and anti-inflammatory properties are very strong with both of these products. We're also known, Vive's Leaves is a cosmeceutical and wellness brand, so we are doing some R&D right now in the office on a few different wellness products, such as tinctures and capsules. So follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, and on the website. We'll be providing updates on all those products as well. But yeah, I mean, it's been awesome working with KifCure, helping build this brand. I've never had a brand of my own, so it's really fun, really exciting. And again, we're really grateful for this. So check us out. Go online. They're up. They're for sale. And yeah, if you ever have any questions, call Jared, call me. My contact is, I think it's on the website. But yeah, let us know. Did I miss anything?
You did a great job.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys. Nice to see you all.
Thanks, Genevieve.
If I can just jump in really quick there. I'm asking if anyone out there, we're having some feedback. If you are not muted, can you please mute yourself? Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, any questions before I get back
any
to
questions?
work?
Yeah, if any questions for Genevieve, or that really, I think that might be our last slide. So yeah. I did want to leave time to address, any questions about anything that we went through today. I know, there's a lot of information out there that, you kind of, it's hard to understand what's going on some days in the hemp industry, but I hope this was able to answer a few questions, and I'm happy to answer any more here with the time remaining that we have today.
This is where there's open Q&A. Feel free to either type them in or jump in. Now you can unmute yourselves. Any questions? Thank you for that though, Jared. Any questions?
Hi, my name is Delia. I have a quick question. I'm not sure if you can see me or can hear me, but hopefully
I can hear you.
Okay, good. I was wondering, do you offer any internships or any way to get involved with your company?
Yeah,
Internships or volunteer opportunities?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, you can always send your resume or kind of what you're looking for. Actually Leslie is on. Leslie, I think she was on our call today, but she's our director of HR. There she is. So Leslie is our director of HR. And so if you want, you can send your information to leslie@kifcure.com.
Okay. What kind of skills are you looking for?
Leslie?
You know what, that might be a conversation to have like off the webinar. How's that?
Okay.
Connect
I'll,
via
I'll
email?
reach out.
All
Thank
right,
you.
great, Julia.
Perfect.
Thank
I'll
you.
look out for your email. Thanks.
Any other questions out there?
There's a question from Adam to everyone. Is there a reason for Taproot preferences for field planting other than environmental conditions?
Well, it depends on, I guess, who you ask. Some of the farmers believe that you get a much, your yields go up with a taproot. And that, I guess that's at least what I've heard in the past from some farmers. That's why they prefer to use a seed or a seedling as opposed to a clone. I think it mostly has to do with yields.
Great question.
Hi, this is Jeff with GSCG. I'd like to just give my kudos to KivCure and everything they've been able to accomplish in the CBD space throughout the Chicagoland area. My question is preference on the milligrams when it comes to buying a product. What should you be looking for?
Yep. Great question. Hey, Jeff, good. Thanks for joining us today. Yeah, so milligram, that's a good question. It's something I've been asking actually a lot of our retailers these days, just to find out what is that sweet spot of milligram per dropper or per dose. You're looking at an edible per dose or dropper per tincture. We sell quite a few of the 1,500 and the 3,000 milligram tinctures. And when I'm probably going to get my math wrong here, but it's something like in one dropper, I think it's like 17 milligrams per dropper or 25 milligrams per dropper in those scenarios or whatever. I'm sure my math is off there, but we basically, what we're hearing is that the demand is rising for the higher dose tinctures, the higher dose edibles, whatever it might be. And that might just be because as people continually use it, I think your tolerance goes up a little bit like anything else. So when people first start using maybe 1,000 milligram tincture, the efficacy isn't necessarily there over time, so that people graduate up to some higher dosages. And obviously, if you're dealing with some ailments that are serious, like chronic pain or insomnia or whatever that might be, I mean, the dosages you're going to want to use are probably going to be a little higher than a normal daily use supplement type of user.
I have a question. Are your extraction services, is everything done over at Maple Park?
No, what we have here is, as I was mentioning before, we have the half-acre plot. Where I'm sitting at right now, this is our distribution warehouse and office, where we have all of our products. We do intake material here, so I've got 12 to 1,500 pounds sitting on the floor in front of me right now of a farmer's stuff. But what we'll do is we'll intake things here, and then generally kind of wherever the availability might be for the extraction piece, extraction and distillation, we usually like to have done at the same location. And those locations would be Wisconsin. We have extraction partner locations in Wisconsin, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee. That's kind of the four states.
So anybody interested in that, a farmer grower can just reach out to you.
Yep. Either can call our 1-800 number, 855-KIFCure, or reach me through my email or info@KIFCure is another way to reach us. So a couple different ways there.
Any other questions? I do see here in our chat. Okay, so Jared, you put some in, and Tim Cash talked about a lab. Origo Labs can help with soil quality and water quality testing, if anyone has any questions. Okay, so you provided that information. And earlier, I also told you that we do soil testing here as well. And I can just forward a brochure to everyone. I'm not sure if it's the nutrients that we're checking for meet that need, but we do have a commercial group that would review as well. Okay.
That's awesome. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. It is 12:35. It's a little bit over 30 minutes. Anyone else have any other questions? Okay. On behalf of the Cook County Farm Bureau, our members and community, thank you so much, Jarrett, for your time and information. And again, you want to throw that slide up again, anyone who has questions or wants to connect with KIFCure, we will go ahead and forward you their contact information in our email with our feedback, okay?
Great. Thanks
All right.
again so much to the Cook County Farm Bureau. Thank you, Deb, for all of your help again. And thanks everyone who joined today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon.